Part 141. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1401. Chapter 1401 Don't hurt your kindness. He calmed down and said to Li Shaowai, I will give you an explanation. As the host of the flower viewing banquet, his posture was low enough, but Li Shaowai just smiled casually. You can't afford this explanation. As soon as these words came out, the scene suddenly froze, and it was like rain. The atmosphere here makes it difficult to breathe. Young Master Li, don't bully others too much, someone who is close to Mr. Yu has already said. Li Shaowai smiled again, and his smile spread like a spring breeze. Don't be nervous, I don't mean to embarrass Mr. Yu. Then please ask Mr. Yu to help me drive people out of the venue. As for what happens next, there is no need to taint Mr. Yu's hand. Now everyone understood. It turned out that he was not forcing Mr. Yu, but on the contrary, he was giving Mr. Yu face. What he meant was that it was obviously not enough to just drive people out of the venue. Other accounts would have to be made up for later. Everyone could imagine how much sinister and words were hidden in these calm words, and they all shuddered for a moment. Mr. Yu breathed a sigh of relief, but when he glanced around and saw the ugly faces of the people sitting at the Pei family, his heart that had just relaxed was suddenly raised again. Young Master Li, everyone is a respectable person. I'm afraid it's not appropriate to ask Miss Pei to leave. Look. Today is a good day. I don't want to see blood, Li Shaowai said with a smile. It was still a very warm and polite sentence, but it made everyone present take a breath. Blood. If other families had said such words and tried to attack the Pei family, they would have been ridiculed, but the Li family was different. No one would doubt that this famous and powerful family did not have such strength. The indifference with which he said the word bloody blatantly in broad daylight was a confidence that most of the families present did not have. Pei Yan really hit the wall this time. The faces of the Pei family over there were even more ugly. As Pei Yan's brother, Pei Chenju had to step forward at this time and said with a cold face, Li Shaowai, don't be too arrogant. Don't think that the Pei family is afraid of you. The person who provoked the first provocation was your stupid sister. Don't bring her out to embarrass you with her low IQ and bring trouble to the family. It was Li Rui who spoke this time, smiling mischievously. Pei Chenju, are you going to go back as long as you live? Are you still protecting such a sister? Sooner or later she will drag you down to the point where you have no place in the Pei family. Pei Chenju's face darkened and he said coldly, that's my family matter. Although he was holding on the surface, he agreed with Li Rui's statement in his heart. He secretly hated his sister for being as stupid as a pig. If nothing else, just talking about today's mess would make his rating even worse than that of Pei Ziyan in the outside world. I was greatly disappointed. Over there, Pei Yan also yelled, don't sow trouble between me and my brother. Want to bully me? No way. Li Rui was still smiling. My brother said that today is a good day and I don't want to see blood. But if you really want to die, I have no choice but to help you. As he spoke, he moved his finger bones, as if he was about to fight. Posture. Pei Yan was so frightened by his posture that her heart pounded. She had long heard that the Li family was very dangerous and terrifying, but she didn't expect that they would even dare to threaten herself. How dare you? I'm from the Pei family. She looked stern but felt angry. At the seats of the Pei family, the other young masters and ladies had a faint look of disgust and disdain in their eyes. Pei Yan apologized to Miss Xia at the Pei family seat. The eldest cousin who attended the banquet, Pei Chenju, who was the successor candidate, couldn't stand it anymore, and acted like an eldest brother. Pei Yan was dissatisfied. Why? Pei Chenju's face was as dark as water. Apologize. His threatening voice made Pei Yan shrink back and glanced at his brother. Pei Chenju secretly hated Pei Yan for being so stupid, which not only gave the Li family a chance to bully him, but also gave Pei Chenju a competitor, a chance to use the situation to his advantage. If he couldn't protect his sister today, his prestige inside and outside the Pei family would plummet in the future. Who would be willing to obey him? But it is too difficult to protect this sister. It is not good for this idiot to offend anyone. He will have trouble with Xia Yingluo in public. Looking at the protective attitude of the two young masters of the Li family, they wish they could treat Xia Yingluo as a rare treasure. Pei Chenji said with a cold face, "Cousin Chenjiao, I will take care of my sister. You are taking too much care of her." Pei Chenjiao feels that it is really unfortunate for his family that these two pictures have made people laugh. Does he care? He has to be able to handle it too. The Li family has already warned that there will be blood. Yes, they said there would be no blood today, but they also said they would settle the score later after kicking Pei Yan out of the banquet. In this case, Pei Yan's best way is to apologize and settle the matter, and fool the girl into thinking that she is ignorant. Trivialize. Otherwise, if something happens to Pei Yan, the Pei family will be embarrassed. They can't really fight with the Li family over a side idiot. At the Li family's seat, Xia Yingluo looked at the Pei family in a mess with a slight smile on her lips. She felt that Pei Xian left too early, leaving a group of juniors who refused to obey anyone, and that was why he caused such trouble. But then I thought about it and thought maybe Uncle Pei left the meeting on purpose and allowed these candidates to perform freely, which would better show their abilities and temperament. Over there, as the eldest brother, Pei Chenjiao did not argue with Pei Chenji. He only brought a glass of wine and said to the Li family seat from a distance, "I'm sorry, two young masters, Miss Xia and my sister-in-law are not sensible. Drink to apologize." After speaking, he raised his head and drank the full glass of wine. Xia Yingluo smiled sweetly and felt that Mr. Pei Chenjiao was really a talent. At least this generation of the Pei family was not full of idiots. He had finished drinking, and the Li family would be too aggressive if they tried to use the topic as a pretext, so Li Shaowai said lazily, "It's just to show off the face of young Master Pei. If this happens, we, the Li family, will not pursue it. However, we still have to invite people. Leave the table, this is his limit. No one who provokes his sister can get away with a glass of wine. His sister is much more precious than a glass of wine." Pei Chenjiao's expression stiffened for a moment. "Li Shaowai, do you think there is really no one in my Pei family?" Actually, privately, he agreed with Li Shaowai's mood. That idiot Pei Yan had offended the treasure that was held in the palm of his hand. Naturally, he couldn't just let it go with a glass of wine. But from the Pei family's point of view, one glass of wine is already the limit. After all, they are a big family and they can't be slapped in the face easily. Several other Pei family brothers and sisters also felt the same way. They all secretly hated Pei Yan for causing trouble and making it impossible for their family to get out of trouble. Li Shaowai smiled lazily, "Mr. Yu." At this time, the owner, Mr. Yu, was sweating on his forehead. He did not want to get involved in the dispute between these two big families at all, but it seemed that he could not escape. He bit the bullet and said, "Young Master Li, please be merciful and merciful. Everyone should take a step back and don't hurt the harmony." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1402. Chapter 1402, Driving People Away in Disguise. Li Shaowai laughed out loud, as if he found it very interesting. How can our family and the Pei family be harmonious? One sentence made Mr. Yu speechless. Yes, these two families have been fighting for more than 10 or 20 years, starting from Pei Zai and Li Lei. How can they be harmonious? What a nice guy. Mr. Yu asked the sky speechlessly. It was the first time that he found it so difficult to persuade others, and he almost cried. Fortunately, Li Shaowai was not an unreasonable person, and he smiled again. "Mr. Yu, I don't want to embarrass you, So I ask you, the host of the banquet, not to interfere in the next thing." After saying that, he patted his hands twice. Two bodyguards in suits and leather shoes came from the darkness with the whirling bamboo shadows, one on the left and one on the right, standing behind the Pei family's seat. "What are you going to do?" Pei Yan was horrified. "Drag him out." Li Shaowai's voice was still lazy, and it sounded as natural as saying "please drink tea." The two bodyguards received the order and directly grabbed Pei Yan's arm and left, ignoring her resistance and struggle, as well as the obstruction of several young men from the Pei family who stood up in an instant. Pei Yan's silver-white cheongsam was dragged to the ground and a large was scratched out, leaving her in a miserable state. She screamed, "Let me go! Let me go!" Pei Chenju stretched out his hand and grabbed one of the bodyguards tightly. "Put my sister down." He had practiced self-defense and originally thought that stopping the bodyguard would be no problem. Unexpectedly, the other person only shook his arm lightly and knocked him down effortlessly. "Sorry, sir, we are just following orders," the bodyguard said expressionlessly. Pei Yan was panicked and frightened, and cried regardless of the image, "Brother, help me." Pei Chenju looked ferocious. If these people were so arrogant in front of him, wouldn't they just slap him in the face? Turning his head, he looked at Li Shaowai fiercely, "If you don't tell me to let go, don't blame me for being rude. I want to see how rude you can be." Li Shaowai smiled harmlessly and clapped his hands again. This time, 4 bodyguards in suits and ties appeared from the darkness, lined up behind the Pei family's seats, staring at their every move with expressionless faces. Li Shaowai said lazily, "My father is fine in everything, but he has a problem and feels sorry for us juniors. The bodyguards sent out this time are experienced in many battles. They have seen more blood than you have drunk water. Pei Chenju, if you don't believe it, you can try it." Pei Chenju's face was ashen. He didn't even have to try. Just by the bodyguard's move to get rid of his hand, he knew he had kicked the iron plate. Li Shaowai is still smiling, calm and leisurely. During the time of asking and answering, Pei Yan was dragged far away by the 2 bodyguards. The screams and curses gradually became quieter, leaving only traces of being dragged on the ground. At the Pei family's seat, Pei Chenjiao, the eldest brother, slowly stood up. He did not get angry at Li Shaowai because he knew that anything he said would be in vain. He turned around and said to the host of the banquet, "Mr. Yu, since you allow the Li family to be so presumptuous, it is no longer interesting for us, the Pei family, to stay here. Remember what you did today. Let's go." The last 3 words were spoken to the other brothers and sisters of the Pei family. As expected of a wealthy family, even if they lost such a big ugliness, at this time, the remaining brothers and sisters all stood up in silence and unanimously, with cold and arrogant expressions, and left the table in unison. Even Pei Chenju no longer talks back to his cousin. "Master Pei, please calm down and let me explain." Mr. Yu was in a dilemma. He didn't want to offend the Li family, but he also wanted to save the face of his family. Otherwise, if the Pei family comes to settle accounts with his wife, he will not be able to bear the consequences. He trotted all the way and personally escorted the Pei family members out, while the Pei family members were sullen and moody all the way. On both sides of the clear and elegant water canal, the guests were completely silent. The Pei family's departure made the air seem to be covered with a layer of frost. What was a wonderful feast seemed very depressing at this time, and many people did not even dare to breathe. After a moment, it was Li Shaowai who smiled first. "Why are you silent? Did I scare everyone?" Where, many people immediately said in a hurry, "Young Master Li is decisive in killing. Mr. Li has you such an air is really enviable. We are not frightened." "You're not scared," Li Shaowai smiled childishly, not seeing the power of the thunder just now. "Then let's continue playing the game." "Okay, let's play games," many people said jokingly. The small wine bottle in the meandering water bottle stopped in Xia Yingluo's hand. Xia Yingluo smiled and said, Pei Yan, who asked the question, has left, so I'll just skip it and let it float directly to the next person. No one else is their opinion. Who dares to have an opinion? They don't want to be invited away like Pei Yan. Amidst the sound of flattery and applause, Xia Yingluo gently handed over her small wine flask. The wine bottle floated along the water channel, turned around the quiet and winding water bend, and stopped in front of a seat not far away. A long and well-jointed hand picked up the small wine bottle. The scene was quiet again, with a low intake of breath. They saw a man wearing an elegant plain blue shirt. His tall figure looked like an immortal in the breeze of the bamboo forest. His eyes were as indifferent as an ice lake, and he was watching Xia Yingluo quietly. Wei Lingnan, someone exclaimed in a low voice. It turned out to be Wei Lingnan coming. Everyone here, as long as they are not stupid, has heard of the rumors about Wei Lingnan and Xia Yingluo that have been making a fuss recently. Many people are curious about what is going on with them. During this grand banquet, I actually saw him in person, and he was the one who took the wine flask from Xia Yingluo. Why is it you again? Xia Yingluo was unhappy and her voice was slightly cold. Wei Lingnan lowered his head. I received the invitation, I'm sorry for not telling you in advance. He used honorifics, which made the people around him feel horrified again. This newly rising figure has developed a new drug that even the whole world is crazy about. He has many business opportunities and the lives of many people, but he actually treats a little the girls are respectful. What is even more shocking is that Xia Yingluo actually took it calmly, and the displeasure on her face has not even faded away. I just want to see you one more time. Wei Lingnan raised the wine bottle in his hand. Why don't you give me a question? Xia Yingluo narrowed her eyes and looked at him for a long time, then suddenly smiled. Are you going to ask a question? I don't want to hear your truth, Wei Lingnan, so let's take a big risk. Go over there. She pointed at the extreme far away. Buy me an ice cream, not chocolate, not vanilla, not matcha, not any flavor you can buy in stores in the city, remember. This question is fundamentally self-contradictory and is intended to embarrass people. Since you are buying it in a store in the city, are you required not to buy any of the flavors available here? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that she is sending Wei Ling south in disguise. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1403. Chapter 1403 Night Wind Rooftop. The cool breeze was blowing during the flower viewing feast. Wei Lingnan bowed deeply to her. As you wish. She was slightly stunned. Did the sun rise in the west today? He was so easy to get rid of. Looking at his slender figure disappearing into the quiet path of the bamboo forest, she suddenly felt a little lost. She was filled with prosperous feasts, but she had no intention of appreciating any more. Not sure how she managed to survive until the end, she got into the car with her two brothers and headed home. Li Rui looked at her worriedly, stretched out his hand and shook it in front of her eyes. Hey, come to your senses, isn't he just Wei Lingnan? Let me help you kill him. We don't know who will be killed yet, Xia Yingluo said weakly. On the car radio, someone was using a large report to describe the innovative medicine of Weishi Biopharmaceutical, claiming that it was a drug revolution that could save all mankind. He is now a man of the hour, controlling life and death and standing at the top of the world. But he has always been used to keeping a low profile. What prompted him to suddenly become so high profile? I came home in a daze and received a phone call late at night. I bought ice cream. Should I bring it to you, or come and get it? This time he did not use honorifics, and his voice was as gentle as if he was chatting away. Xia Yingluo looked out the window at the night. I suddenly don't want to eat again. If it weren't for this phone call, she almost forgot about the truth or dare during the day. He didn't return after buying ice cream. Everyone thought he was stumped by the problem and retreated silently. Unexpectedly, he spent a day and finally bought it. Xia Yingluo couldn't help but wonder, has he been doing this since he retired from the flower viewing party? I feel a little sour and uncomfortable, and I don't know what he bought. On the other end of the phone, Wei Lingnan said, then I'll send it over. She is now in the Li family villa, one of the few places in the world where she can guard against him. Do you think you can get in? You will have an announcement tomorrow, he said. I will visit the place where the announcement was made. Xia Yingluo was a little angry. Are you threatening me? He was silent for a moment on the other end of the phone. I just want to see you. In fact, it was a threat. No matter where he went now, he would cause a stir in the crowd. The four-corner love affair with her and Zhang Yu and Gu Jingxiu was spreading, making it difficult for him to live in peace. Xia Yingluo looked up at the night outside the window, knowing how stubborn she was as a guardian. I'm coming to find you now. She hung up the phone, grabbed a dress from the closet, and walked in his direction. Now that they have a guardian pact, she quickly finds out where he is. The rooftop of a building faces the busy traffic in the bustling central city. The stars shine brightly on a summer night. She climbed up to the rooftop. Why did you choose this place? You can see the stars here. He came up to her, smiled at her, and handed her an ice cream in his hand. I bought this from a handmade ice cream shop and asked them to customize it according to my requirements, and can never make a second copy in the future. A unique one in the world, it meets her requirement of any taste that cannot be bought in the city. She lowered her eyes and looked at the ice cream in her hand. The purple nuts were mixed with chocolate to form the shape of a beautiful planet. She recognized that planet. It was their home planet, Scatena. She took a bite of the ice cream. It didn't taste as good as her fatherly Lay's, but it had a hint of energy. You added energy to it? Yes, he said, energy needs to be well absorbed by the human body, purified, and then transformed through a medium. This effect is much better than drinking my blood directly. Aluo, you need energy the most right now. When I arrived, I said I would help you collect it. You also said you asked Gu Jingxiu to deliver it. Her voice was a little cold. You know I don't want to see you. He avoided answering because he couldn't be more serious with her about some things because he was afraid that she would be really strict with her if he got serious. Under the stars in the sky, he pointed at the busy traffic in the city. Look at the prosperity of this world, just like the stars in the universe, lighting up and going out. I want to see all the scenery with you, and only I can see it with you. All the scenery, traveling with you throughout the universe, immortal. She looked at him. What do you want to say? Aluo, Zhang Yu is not suitable for you. He is immortal and will die. She sneered. That's my business. You haven't tasted the loneliness of eternal life. Wei Lingnan looked at her. However, he has tasted it for hundreds of millions of years, and he knows what it feels like to feel hopeless. People around him come and go, but he is like a passerby, a ghost, living here with an illusory goal. So lonely in the world. The only thought that supported him was her. He didn't know how he would survive if he lost her. We are the only ones of the same kind, he said. There is also Gu Jingxiu. She sneered, feeling worried. Aluo, I'm sorry. She turned her face to the side. It was too late to say anything now. The ice cream melted little by little in her mouth, and his familiar energy flowed along her veins and into her heart. Before she met him, she didn't know what the meaning of her life was. It seemed that she was just a rich young lady, living and waiting to die. Everything she did was interesting, but nothing was interesting. But after getting to know him, everything changed. She has many things to do, including the entanglement of love and hate, as well as the difficult goal of reviving the race in the future. But those are all her business. She knew very well that he didn't care whether the race would be revived, and he had no interest in contributing. If it wasn't for her need, he wouldn't have contributed half a cent to collecting energy. This arrogant man spent so much time and energy doing something that he was not interested in at all because of her. Bound by the guardian contract, she could feel his breath in the night wind. It was very close to her and very familiar, which made her feel inexplicably peaceful. Even if she hates him or doesn't want to see him, he is right, there is only one person in the world who can accompany her to the end, and only one person can fight alongside her, forever. Allo, his voice came in the night wind, and he dared to hold her hand. Don't drive me away. Her hand was cold, and he pulled it. She struggled slightly, but she didn't break free. She glared at him. Let go, I'm going home. He said, let me take you for a ride and take you to the car. It was just a small request. He didn't dare to ask for too much at once, but every request was a little progress. He believed that one day she would accept him again. Xia Yingluo was a little hesitant. She should definitely shake off his hand, but she couldn't. With a moment of hesitation, he had already taken her hand and walked to the rooftop. Below the rooftop was a bustling shopping mall with people flowing back and forth. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1404. Chapter 1404. I am too impulsive. Afraid of being discovered, she hurriedly pulled the silk scarf tied around her graceful neck to cover half of her delicate face. Wei Lingnan noticed her little movement and pulled her into his arms, making it look like a couple cuddling intimately. Most of her face was buried in his chest, and she moved uneasily as she listened to his steady and strong heartbeat. Wei Lingnan said, don't move around, be careful of being discovered. She is a star now, what can a silk scarf cover? It's good luck not to be recognized when you go up to the rooftop, but you may not have such good luck when you go down. Xia Yingluo also understood her situation, no longer struggled, and was held in his arms obediently. There are people coming and going in the shopping mall, the lights of each store are blurred, and the sweet smell of cream cakes floats in the air. She felt like she was on a small boat in the ocean of light and shadow, rising and falling with him, and easily passing through the crowds under his protection. She didn't have to worry about anything, didn't have to think about anything, just follow him all the way forward. Just fine. Unconsciously, I raised my head to look at his face. His face was as handsome and impressive as an ice sculpture. It was so beautiful. As if aware of her gaze, he lowered his head, looked at her with a smile, and asked warmly, do you still remember that time in the Sisha Spiral Arm Galaxy, when I led you to break out? That time we were ambushed by the Sisha stars, of the 30,000 troops, you and I made it out alive. At that time, you looked at me like this, and I thought, such a beautiful little princess, I must not let you die there. She remembers. Even among the countless battles they have experienced, that one is still frightening. She still remembered that it was another princess who colluded with the assassins to set up a trap and was determined to kill her there. Her army of 30,000 was ambushed by 100,000, and she was almost desperate at that time. It was him who desperately led her to break through. When her energy was exhausted and she lost her ability to fight, he protected her with his body, just like now, isolating the crowd from her and carving a path. She still remembered that at that time, his heartbeat was very strong, his breathing was heavy, and blood was flowing out like it was free, but one of his hands had been holding her steady. It was not until he fell to the ground seriously injured after breaking through that she discovered his back. The back has been completely torn, and the flesh has long been lost, exposing the dense bones and beating internal organs. But along the way, he remained silent and didn't let her get even the slightest bit hurt. Thinking about the past, she said, thank you for saving me. Other than this thank you, she didn't know what else to say. Was she so grateful? No, even 100,000 tears of gratitude can't compare to every penny he paid for her back then, which cannot be expressed in words. He looked a little sad. I miss that time very much. She was silent, as he walked through the mall filled with the sweet smell of butter, hearing the laughter of humans in her ears. She knew why he missed that time, so why didn't she miss it? At that time, even though there were so many hardships and dangers, even though every day when I went to bed, I didn't know whether I would see the sun, moon, and stars the next day, they were together, living and dying together, and all the dangers and nastiness had not happened yet. Those were the best years. Allo. We can't go back a long time ago, she interrupted him. The hatred of genocide, the hatred of betrayal, everything was intertwined. She was no longer the little princess with no distractions, and he was no longer the person who only wanted to be loyal. What's the use of talking more? Wei Lingnan lowered his head and looked at her tense face. His eyes became darker, and he didn't say anything in the end. Protecting her through the crowd, they arrived at the square outside the main entrance of the mall. Outside the square is a small parking lot. Due to the high fees, there are only various luxury cars lined up side by side, flashing under the lights. He asked her to stand aside and wait while he drove the car out. Unexpectedly, when he was about to drive in front of her, he collided with another car. Fortunately, it was in a parking lot and the speed of both parties was not very fast, so the collision was not serious. A person got out of that car, and it turned out to be Zhang Yu. Yingluo. Zhang Yu ignored the car that was hit by her and hurriedly walked towards Xia Yingluo, who was standing aside. Why are you here? Come on, get in my car and I will take you back. Xia Yingluo instinctively took a step back, avoiding him and reaching out to hold her hand. Why are you here? While speaking, Wei Lingnan opened the driver's door of another car and walked out. With just one stretch of his hand, he pulled Xia Yingluo behind him and looked at Zhang Yu coldly. I asked how someone could be so ignorant that he could bump into such a spacious parking lot. It turned out to be you. You want to get it from me, taking a Luo away? Impossible. Zhang Yu's expression was ugly. It's really you. Sure enough, Xia Yingluo captured the key words keenly. Zhang Yu's expression was ugly. My assistant was shopping nearby and just gave me a message saying that he saw someone who looked very much like you, Yingluo, and that you were with Wei Lingnan. I didn't believe it, so I came to take a look. You are really, you know, he is not a good person to be with. He extended his hand to Xia Yingluo again. Follow me. Xia Yingluo was a little unhappy because Zhang Yu was too involved. Wei Lingnan also sneered. Who are you? Don't take yourself too seriously. Yingluo personally agreed to my proposal. Who do you think I am to her? Zhang Yu's voice suddenly became louder, and the sarcasm in Wei Lingnan's eyes made him unable to control himself. Wei Lingnan, don't always harass me. Yingluo, please stay away from him. Near the parking lot, several people noticed the dispute and looked over. Look, are those people over there celebrities? They look familiar. Oh my god, it's Zhang Yu, the god of Zhang. Immediately, fans screamed and gathered around. Wei Lingnan frowned, took Xia Yingluo's hand and walked into the dark. Follow me, don't be surrounded by them. Two cars collided and blocked the road, plus other cars in the parking lot that couldn't get in or out. Has been completely unable to start. He made a prompt decision and pulled Xia Yingluo to a safe place without giving her a chance to react. Zhang Yu also saw the fans swarming in and left decisively with the two of them. The few people shook off their fans and stopped in a secluded green belt. Wei Lingnan looked at Zhang Yu coldly. How long will you continue to follow us? You are not welcome here, so hurry up and leave. Zhang Yu looked at Xia Yingluo stubbornly. Yingluo, come with me. I don't worry about you being with this person. Xia Yingluo shook her head. Zhang Yu, don't interfere in the affairs between me and him. And, I'm sorry about the proposal last time, but I have to take back that promise. I was just too impulsive. I'll give it to you caused trouble. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1405. Chapter 1405, Public Enemy. Zhang Yu said eagerly, Yingluo. Wei Lingnan on the side said with an indifferent voice, didn't you hear what she said? She has nothing to do with you anymore. Why? Zhang Yu couldn't accept this fact and looked at Xia Yingluo with hurt. It was fine at the fan meeting that day, so why did he change his mind in the blink of an eye? Is it because of him? He pointed at Wei Lingnan. Xia Yingluo was quiet for a moment before saying, even without him, we wouldn't be able to be together. The reason for agreeing to Zhang Yu's proposal was to Qi Wei Lingnan, and it had nothing to do with Zhang Yu himself. She was wrong. She shouldn't have been so hasty, which caused a lot of trouble to Zhang Yu. Zhang Yu was a little excited, it's really because of him. Yingluo, you should know what kind of person he is. He abandoned you to be with Gu Jingxiu a long time ago. Now he comes to provoke you again, who knows what An is thinking. You don't have to worry about what I am worried about. Wei Lingnan smiled coldly, what qualifications do you have to compete with me? Zhang Yu looked at him angrily and suddenly understood something. No wonder you said something like that in the hospital that day, as long as you are more powerful than me. You have been developing new anti-cancer drugs for a long time, right? You are releasing it at this critical moment just to compete with me for Yingluo. Yingluo, don't be with this despicable person. His announcement of a new anti-cancer drug is just for publicity. Xia Yingluo frowned slightly. Even if she felt guilty towards Zhang Yu, her patience was almost exhausted at this time. She said calmly, Zhang Yu, please calm down. I will come to apologize to you another day. Turning around, he said to Wei Lingnan, let's go. Wei Lingnan glanced at Zhang Yu, with a sneer on his lips, and followed Xia Yingluo away. The night breeze is slightly cool, and the stars in the summer sky are twinkling. Xia Yingluo walked on the busy street for a long time and asked Wei Lingnan, am I cruel? Wei Lingnan said, no. She glanced at him. He said, for people like Zhang Yu, we just can't let him have any illusions. She sneered, what about you? He stopped talking and walked silently along the street with her. After a long time, he said, you are very cruel to me. Don't use honorifics, she said coldly. Anyway, you have stopped respecting me as a queen. He lowered his head slightly, letting her get angry. Up to now, he was satisfied to be able to stand so close to her. They had almost broken up with each other a few days ago, and he had put in so much effort to be able to walk with her again. Little by little, he believed that one day he would get everything he wanted. Xia Yingluo returned home, and the next day, Tan Ying came to her with an ugly face. What happened? There was overwhelming news outside this morning, saying that Zhang Yu mocked Wei Lingnan. This matter has nothing to do with you, right? Xia Yingluo was woken up from the bed by the servant just to see Tan Ying. At this time, she yawned in confusion, what news? Don't pretend to be stupid, Tan Ying was angry. The news said that Zhang Yu's satire on Wei Lingnan's development of new anti-cancer drugs was sensational. There are also videos circulating on the internet. Although the shooting angle is cleverly hidden, only Wei Lingnan and Zhang Yu are in the picture. But I saw the hem of your clothes. Xia Yingluo suddenly woke up. What? Someone was filming me secretly yesterday. She didn't even notice. So is Wei Lingnan. According to the fighting habits of the Katana people, it is simply unbelievable for both of them to let a creature of an uncivilized race lurk nearby without realizing it. Tan Ying was going to be mad at her. You know how to cause trouble. Zhang Yu is drowning in the saliva of netizens now. He said that he has no ability and is just an actor. He is jealous of Wei Lingnan's overnight fame and jealous of Wei Lingnan's ability to do so. Humanity contributes. Xia Yingluo's face became serious, and she realized the seriousness of the incident. In this world, no matter how much you laugh and curse, there are certain moral limits that cannot be touched. For example, a new anti-cancer drug is a life-saving drug for all mankind. Being ridiculed by someone in the entertainment industry will definitely trigger public outrage. After all mankind can live without Yu Zhangyu, but without Wei Lingnan's medicine, how many lives would be lost? They didn't care about Zhang Yu's reasons or why he was so angry that he couldn't speak anymore. All they saw was an actor who looked down on their life-saving medicine. Zhang Yu, you are in big trouble this time. How is the situation? She asked Tan Ying. I can't control it, Tan Ying said as expected. Zhang Yu's team has strong crisis public relations skills and issued an apology statement as soon as possible. However, there are definitely people behind this incident who are fueling the fire and will not give him a chance to stop. The public opinion attacks are becoming more and more fierce, and his reputation is ruined. If the great actor has worked hard for many years, it will be ruined if he doesn't handle it well this time. Xia Yingluo remained silent. Tan Ying said, now you tell me exactly what happened last night. Before the fire burns to you, we can take countermeasures early. I ruined a Zhang Yu. Don't drag you down to pay for it together. The right to life and so on. The topic is restricted area, whoever touches it will die. Xia Yingluo said, I will not be dragged down. Tan Ying looked at her, understood something, and smiled sarcastically. Sure enough, it was Wei Lingnan who moved his hand. She nodded lightly. This was the most reasonable and only explanation. It could only be someone he arranged to secretly take photos at such a close range without being discovered, and deliberately delete her out of the camera. Thinking about it now, from when she went to look for him on the rooftop of the shopping mall, to when he pulled her downstairs, to the collision in front of the parking lot, to being chased by fans and hiding in the dimly lit green belt. They are all intertwined, and I am afraid they are all deliberately designed by him. The purpose should be to deal with Zhang Yu. I was the one who dragged Zhang Yu down, she said. We have to help him in this matter. Zhang Yu suffered a disaster this time. Even if he liked her and pursued her, he did nothing wrong and should not be treated like this. Tan Ying was frantic. Help him? Do you intend to be the public enemy of all mankind? What a big deal, Xia Yingluo said coldly. People are bound to make mistakes. Besides, when Zhang Yu said that Wei Lingnan was sensationalizing, it was for a reason. The scandals of so many celebrities in the entertainment industry have been settled, so I don't believe that this matter can't be settled. Miss, you are too busy with your own affairs, so you have so much time to spare. I will warn Wei Lingnan not to continue taking action, Xia Yingluo said. As for eliminating the current bad effects, he may not be willing. So, Uncle Tan, we only need to be responsible for helping Zhang Yu eliminate those effects, and we don't even need to intervene. Too many. You also said that Zhang Yu's public relations team is very strong. As long as Wei Lingnan doesn't make things difficult for him, he should be able to handle it himself. Tan Ying did not agree. If it is as simple as what you said, what is Wei Lingnan's purpose in launching this attack? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1406. Chapter 1406. He will also be afraid. Xia Yingluo doesn't understand either. She went to see Wei Lingnan. Under the artificial sky of Wei's base, the man was wearing a pure white shirt and brought her a cup of scented tea. The tea contained the energy she desperately needed now. She didn't touch the cup of tea, just looked into Wei Lingnan's eyes. What do you want? Wei Lingnan's tone was calm. Don't underestimate Zhang Yu too much. This bit of negative news may make other small stars themselves, But this does not include the great actor who has been in the entertainment industry for so many years. Just what? I just don't want him to stand by your side. She doesn't want other men to stand side by side with her, sharing glory and dreams with her. Xia Yingluo was very angry. So you attack innocent people? He is not innocent. Wei Lingnan's eyes were indifferent. Aluo, he wants you, and this alone is worth my action. You should be glad that this is on Earth. If it were on the Scatana planet, he will die under my claws. Xia Yingluo understood very well that what he said was right. The mating war on Scatana is a life and death war. In comparison, humans on Earth are too gentle. Wei Lingnan looked at her. Aluo, you will become as soft-hearted as humans if you stay on Earth for a long time. Xia Yingluo shook her head. I am a human being. Wei Lingnan, I have human blood flowing in my body. If you think they are aliens, objects that you can flatten and round at will with your powerful power, I'm sorry, then you will be with I am the enemy. Her eyes were cold, without any hint of joking, and she stared at Wei Lingnan, showing her determination. Wei Lingnan was startled for a moment, and then said, what is the Katana star, Aluo? You, a traitor, have no right to ask me. Xia Yingluo sneered again. Wei Lingnan stretched out a long, well-jointed hand and pushed the still warm cup of tea in front of her. Maybe I am a traitor to the Scatana tribe, but I am not your traitor. Aluo, drink this energy tea and I will protect you. She lowered her eyes and looked at the cup of tea. Her words of rejection rolled around her mouth, but she did not say them out. If she loses his help, she has no confidence in protecting the safety of the world tree. She held the cup of tea in her hand, but did not drink it immediately. Instead, she asked Wei Lingnan, you also said that this bit of negative news will not make Zhang Yu collapse. You don't want him to stand by my side? I understand what you mean. Wei Lingnan looked at the tea in her hand. I told you, will you drink it? Yes. So, he looked at her calmly, as if he was chatting away. Although the negative news this time will not have a fatal impact on Zhang Yu, it will be enough for him to spend a lot of time and energy dealing with it. If I didn't remember wrong, Star Wars Chronicles 2 will start filming soon. With his current reputation, he is no longer qualified to be the leading actor. I want that position. This is his purpose. Xia Yingluo looked at him in surprise. You. I have watched Star Wars Chronicles. Aluo, you are based on the planet Katana and several real events in the history of the universe. Although the traces of fusion are not obvious, I know it. Wei Lingnan, he said calmly, you have experienced these events personally, so after the movie is released, in addition to the normal star popularity bonus, part of the audience's admiration for the character itself will be converted into energy and cover you. This, the better the movie and the characters in it are consistent with real history, the higher the energy conversion rate. In this regard, it will be easier for me to play the leading role in understanding the character and communicating with you. It saves a lot of effort. After he finished speaking a long paragraph, there was an imperceptible cautiousness in the depths of his eyes, waiting for Xia Yingluo's answer. Xia Yingluo sneered softly, it's really a good plan. Wei Lingnan said, this is good for you, Aluo. It will be more beneficial to you. She pierced him mercilessly. Wei Lingnan, don't you just want to create opportunities to get close to me? So what if you can get along with me day and night? The relationship that has been broken cannot be restored. I am now like this, the answer will be the same in the future. Since you have so much confidence in yourself, why don't you use me? She calmed down and looked angrily at the man who had turned against him. Wei Lingnan laughed calmly, since emotions are not affected, you should use me, right? I am so popular now that I can bring this movie to a new level, plus it fits the story, why not do such a cost-effective thing? Xia Yingluo was speechless and turned her head to the side. Aluo, Wei Lingnan said slowly, as long as you agree, I will help Zhang Yu settle everything and even send him to new heights. She thought, even if she didn't ask him to settle everything, as long as he didn't embarrass Zhang Yu, everything would be fine. It is foreseeable that if she insists on using Zhang Yu as the male protagonist in the second film, Wei Lingnan will definitely continue to cause trouble for him in the future. If she loves Zhang Yu, she can face everything with Zhang Yu, but she doesn't love him and doesn't want to hinder his career because of her. Okay, I promise you, she finally compromised, but you also have to promise me one thing: you are not allowed to attack the people around me again. Of course, My Majesty. Wei Lingnan laughed softly and spread his hands slightly. The tea is getting cold, drink it quickly. Xia Yingluo raised her head and finished her tea, then placed the cracked glass on the table. Have you achieved your goal? Are you satisfied? Then don't forget your promise, and, I don't want to see you before the movie starts. He watched her back leave without looking back or stopping at all. The faint smile on his face disappeared, followed by an unconcealable loneliness. He sat in the small garden under the artificial sky, from afternoon to sunset, and from sunset to starlight. He raised his head and looked lonely at the stars in the night, with the night wind blowing his clothes slowly. Sir, suddenly, an old voice came from my ears. Without looking back, he knew it was Lao Zhou from the laboratory, the old man who had served him all his life and was one of the very few people in this base who knew his true identity. Do you think she will never forgive me? He said softly, still looking at the stars. Lao Zhou Gongjin replied, your determination is amazing. You have survived all these years. You will definitely win Miss Ya's understanding. Yeah, I've managed to survive all these years. His voice sounded like a sigh. In fact, every time he faced him, he told himself that there must be a way to make her understand and accept him, but when he was alone, he could not help but wonder, what should he do if she never forgives? He is an intelligent creature, made of flesh and blood, and can also be afraid. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1407. Chapter 1407. The Secret Injury. It was quiet under the starry night. The old man stood respectfully with his hands down, not daring to talk or move. His master is a bit moody, and even after serving him for many years, he is unwilling to make mistakes or violate taboos at this time. After a long while, it was Wei Lingnan who asked him first, what do you want from me? The old man then spoke carefully, the energy of the base is not enough, and the red warning lighted up. Wei Lingnan asked, how many are left? 13.4%, the old man replied. Wei Lingnan's voice was indifferent, check and shut down any unnecessary production capacity. Maintaining this base requires a huge amount of energy. After his continuous improvement over the years, the base has actually become self-sufficient. But now that Xia Yingluo is pregnant, her physical condition cannot be compromised, and the energy required by World Tree is too great. He can only convert most of the energy generated by the base into energy for her use. But she didn't know this. The old man was very embarrassed. In accordance with your instructions a few days ago, everything that could be closed was closed, and a lot of personnel were dismissed. Now all that is left in the base are essential projects, and nothing can be cancelled. Wei Lingnan didn't hesitate much, shut down Laboratory No. 4. Sir, the old man was startled and looked at him in surprise. How is this possible? The healing drugs studied in Laboratory No. 4 are to treat your leg disease. If you turn it off, your legs. Turn it off when I say it. His voice was decisive, without any hesitation. The old man knew that he always told the truth, but this matter was too important, so he still persisted in persuading, this is not possible. You once said that even for a powerful being like you, if the injury is not healed for a long time, it will cause permanent damage. You will be disabled. My legs are fine. Wei Lingnan's expression was as cold as ice. He stood up and said that the topic was over. Old Zhou, don't meddle in other people's business. The night breeze was cool, and he left this loyal man behind. Subordinates, walk deeper into the base. Deep inside the base, in the vast darkness, a mysterious deep purple artificial planet hangs alone, its light shining like breathing. This replica of the star Scatena is his usual residence. He walked in and immersed his body in a pool of lavender smoke like light. Soon, his left leg twisted and deformed, turning into a monster's thick and powerful hind limb in the purple mist. This is part of the original body of the Scatena star, but this hind limb is grey and has a sickly unnatural look, like necrosis. He dragged his hind limbs and received treatment in the purple mist. The purple mist soon turned grey and dissipated in the air. But his hind limbs did not change at all. He tried to use this hind limb to step onto the wall of the mist pool. The claws looked so thick and sharp, but they did not leave many marks on the wall. This leg, except for its basic walking function, was useless. Even the basic function of walking was maintained while enduring pain. His expression was indifferent, and he used his hands and feet to finally leave the mist pool that he could easily leave when he was healthy. From tonight onwards, this mist pool will be useless and will no longer bear the function of healing every night, and this injured leg can only be left to fend for itself. This is the scar he made while trying to save her last time in the laboratory when the ground cracked and she fell into the gap. At that time, he held her hand to prevent her from falling into the abyss. The hind limb sank deeply into the high-hardness floor of the laboratory. He used too much force, causing inevitable injuries. If he had enough energy, he could repair it, but every drop of energy was precious these days, and he didn't want to waste it on such frivolous things. Anyway, if you be careful, you can still walk. Although every step I took was excruciating pain. I just hope that she can collect enough energy as soon as possible and be healthy and safe. Xia Yingluo returned home from the base and told her parents that she planned to use Wei Lingnan as the male protagonist in Star Wars Chronicles 2. His parents were a little unhappy, especially Li Lei. When will it be that Brat's turn to make the decision regarding Tianyi? Although Wei Lingnan is hundreds of millions of years older than him, since he is pursuing his daughter, she is his descendant. Calling him a brat is a compliment to him. Xia Yingluo said feebly, I don't want to either, Dad. If you can change the male protagonist, I would thank God. Li Lei was even more unhappy. Little girl, you know how to plot against your father. Of course he knew that since Xia Yingluo had compromised with Wei Lingnan, it proved that there was no way to change the matter. Even if he went to court, the result would be the same. Xia Ling on the other side grabbed her husband. Okay, why are you angry with your daughter? Come as soon as Wei Lingnan comes. Are you afraid that you can't cure him when he enters our set? Huh. Xia Yingluo shuddered inexplicably when she saw her mother's calculating look. By the way, when he enters his own studio, the parents can punish him no matter what. As long as he gives a little hint to the director will naturally have a way to punish him to death. Not to mention anything else, if it clicks a few times when shooting difficult shots, it won't be bearable for many people. However, she is not worried about these things. On the one hand, she is resentful towards Wei Lingnan, and on the other hand, she also feels that he is not a person who cannot withstand hardship. By the way, she remembered something and reminded her parents, keep the change of roles a secret in advance. Zhang Yu has been in a lot of trouble recently, and the news of the change of roles at this time will make things worse for him. You don't have to say that. Li Lei smiled and rubbed his daughter's long hair. You don't even know how many years your father has been in charge of Tianyi. How could he treat his artists badly for a brat? Don't worry, I will make it up to Zhang Yu. With his words, Xia Yingluo finally felt relieved, knowing that this incident would not have a long-term impact on Zhang Yu, and the compensation Li Lei mentioned might even help his career to a higher level. She beamed, thank you, Dad. Li Lei rubbed her head again, narrowed his eyes and began to figure out how to show off that brat Wei Lingnan. It was still some time before the filming of Star Wars Chronicles 2 started. Xia Yingluo remembered that she still had one important thing to do. Last time at the ladies' flower viewing party in midsummer, Du Zheng gave her an exquisite hairpin and asked her to hand it over. For Jin Linger. She found the hairpin from the bag she brought to the banquet and went to Jin Linger's residence. Jin Linger was very happy to see her and put her hands around her neck. Yingluo. What kind of wind has brought you here? It's been a long time since I last saw you. Since the last wedding incident between Gu Jingxiu and Wei Lingnan, Xia Yingluo has been busy, and Jin Linger has also been busy with her own affairs. It has indeed been a long time since they last met. Xia Yingluo looked at her and smiled. Someone asked me to give you something. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1408. Chapter 1408 Their Little Secret. Jin Linger looked at her with bright eyes. Wow, what is it? Show me quickly. As he spoke, he pulled Xia Yingluo into the living room. Xia Yingluo sat cross-legged on the tatami at her home, took out a delicate hairpin from her small handbag, and pushed it in front of Jin Linger. The other day I met brother Du Zheng, and he asked me to pass this on to you. I'm sorry I broke your hairpin on set. Jin Linger's originally clear eyes suddenly darkened. Du Zheng. Xia Yingluo keenly sensed something was wrong. What's going on between you and him? When he talked about you, his expression was weird. Linger, what happened? If he bullies you, I'll help you get justice. Jin Linger gritted her teeth and sneered, pushing the hairpin back. Nothing. Yingluo, I don't want his things, please help me return them to him. How does this look like it's nothing? Xia Yingluo was worried in her heart and said, it's better for you two to treat me as an errand boy. Give it back to him. Do you know what this hairpin is? How much effort did it take to customize the mystery realm? Only then can I buy it. In fact, I still want it. Last time I asked my second brother to help me buy it, but he was so stupid that he didn't get it, which made me so angry. Jin Linger didn't know the origin of this small hairpin was so important, so she was a little stunned for a moment. However, it only took a moment for him to come to his senses and shake his head. I don't want it. If he really wants to apologize, he can come to me himself. What really happened? Xia Yingluo stared at her. Linger, although I know this is your private matter and I shouldn't interfere too much, you are my good friend and I always want to help you. Jin Linger was silent for a long time before she said softly, Yingluo, am I useless? Xia Yingluo held her hand. It's okay, you are a very good girl. Then why is he always avoiding me? Jin Linger suddenly became agitated and looked up at her. I don't know when he started avoiding me. It's the same on the set, and it's also in the company. I'm not. Do you say you like him? If he doesn't like me, just say it. What's the point of hiding it like this? Yingluo, Jin Linger became more and more aggrieved as she spoke, and her eye circles were slightly red. Xia Yingluo's heart skipped a beat. The situation seemed to be worse than she expected. Jin Linger has actually fallen into such a deep trap that she even confessed to Du Zheng? With her family background, how could the Du family let her in? Yingluo, help me. Once her heart was poured out, Jin Linger had no scruples. They all laughed at me and said I was doing it for Du Zheng's money, but I really like him. I have never seen that such a nice person. Yingluo, do you think he thinks I like his money, so he avoids me? Xia Yingluo thought about it and saw that Du Zheng looked like that day. Does he like you? She asked. In fact, from what she saw of Du Zheng that day, he probably also liked Jin Linger. It's such a bad fate. Over the years, there have been many famous ladies who wanted to marry Du Zheng. Why did he choose Jin Linger who wanted nothing? Although Xia Yingluo and Jin Linger are best friends, it has to be said that by the standards of wealthy families, she is not a suitable candidate for a daughter-in-law in terms of background, ability, and emotional intelligence. Jin Linger was a little unsure when asked by Xia Yingluo. I'm very nice to me, but... She bit her lip. I don't know if he likes me. If he doesn't like me, why doesn't he just reject me? But if he likes me, why does he always avoid me? Follow me. Would you like to marry him? Xia Yingluo asked. Of course, Jin Linger blushed a little, but said it without hesitation. Xia Yingluo looked at her carefully. You have to think clearly, sometimes love is just a kind of fever. If you fall in love with an ordinary boy, it doesn't matter. But the other party is Du Zhang, an important figure in the Du family, a younger generation. Have you ever thought about the consequences? Apart from anything else, the resistance in his family can make people crazy. Although Xia Yingluo herself has not experienced these twists and turns, she has liked to listen to gossip stories since she was a child. She has learned everything about her mother's love history with Pei Xian. How difficult it is for a girl from a commoner background to survive in a rich and wealthy family. She knew how difficult it was. Jin Linger said, I have never thought that far, but I can't give up on him just because of those difficulties. Yingluo, just like you and Wei Lingnan, you clearly know that falling in love with him will lead to so much hardship. However, I know that you still love him. How can you control your feelings? If you like him, you will like him. No one can resist that kind of power. Hearing her mention Wei Lingnan, Xia Yingluo smiled bitterly. He lowered his head and unconsciously played with the teacup on his hand. Yes, even if he betrayed me and hurt me. But emotional matters are beyond one's control. Who can control his own heart? I'll help you. She raised her head and said to Jin Linger, isn't he avoiding you? I can help you ask him out. You can make it clear in person. If he loves you as much as you love him, I will help you get married smoothly. Yingluo, thank you. Jin Linger suddenly became happy, crossed her body over the low table on the tatami, threw herself at her and gave her a big hug. I knew you were the best. Xia Yingluo was thrown to the ground by her, laughing and rubbing her face. Looking at the empty ceiling, another wry smile appeared on her face. It's really nerve-wracking to take over other people's affairs before you have solved your own troubles. However, perhaps it is precisely because I am trapped in the whirlpool of love and cannot extricate myself from the whirlpool of love that I cannot be with the one I love without grudges, so I hope to see my good friends be happy. Jin Linger rubbed her for a while and asked, Yingluo, aren't you afraid that I am Du Zhang's money? Xia Yingluo sneered, stretched out her hand and touched her forehead. Look at your prospects. If you just want to find a long-term meal ticket, sister, don't I? As long as you follow me, sister, I guarantee you a better life than marrying into the Du family. Well, Miss Du and Mrs. Du are just jealous of you. The words made Jin Linger laugh miserably. Hey, I want to follow Du Zhang. There is no humanity in people of the opposite sex. Xia Yingluo tapped her forehead again. The two girls got together and formulated a battle plan. Xia Yingluo is in high spirits. This is the only good thing in recent times. There is no longer any love-hate relationship between Wei Lingnan and Gu Jingxiu. She seems to have become the ordinary little girl she was before she met him. Girls stick together with their best friends and plan their own little secrets. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1409. Chapter 1409. The Gentle White Horse. Soon, the two girls had an idea. No matter what, they must ask Du Zhang out to make it clear in person. It is not difficult to make an appointment. After all, the Li family and the Du family are family friends. But in order to prevent Du Zhang from becoming suspicious, Xia Yingluo did not go out to date him herself. Instead, She asked her elder brother Li Shaowai to help arrange an appointment for Du Zheng at the Nanshan Horse Racing Club. Who has the best relationship between Li Shaowai and Du Zheng? Moreover, both of them like to ride horses, and they would go for a walk from time to time, and the appointment there was perfect. At the end of the day, the summer cicadas chirp and the first lotus blooms. Xia Yingluo and Jin Linger looked at Li Shaowai and Du Zheng walking over with a smile. She called out obediently, "Brother Du Zheng." Today, Du Zheng was wearing a decent riding outfit, which made his already tall and straight figure look even more handsome. However, his face was still serious, his eyes swept over Jin Linger and Xia Yingluo calmly, and then glanced at the people around him. "Li Shaowai, are these the friends you mentioned?" Li Shaowai smiled harmlessly, "Ah, I originally had other friends, but my sister rejected them because they were too noisy." Du Zheng. He was not stupid enough to not see that Li Shaowai was telling lies. The situation in front of him made it clear that he was being plotted. The brother and sister had already planned to bring him and Jin Linger together. He looked down at the girl a few steps away. The girl with short, rusty blonde hair looked a little embarrassed and uneasy. Her eyes flickered and she didn't dare to look at him. Her uneasy look made him feel a little pain in his heart. She stood next to Xia Yingluo with her head lowered, her fingers twisting the corners of her clothes uneasily. However, Xia Yingluo smiled and pushed her. "Linger, haven't you always said you wanted to learn to ride a horse? I found a master for you. Brother Du Zheng has been good at equestrian since he was a child, so it would be right for him to teach you." As he said that, he turned to look at Du Zheng. "That's right, brother Du Zheng, don't live up to my boast, I praised you so much in front of Linger." Du Zheng gave her a cold look and knew with his toes that today's matter was the little girl's idea. Xia Yingluo was not afraid of him. She held her eldest brother's hand unconsciously and said with a smile, "Then let's go pick a horse." Bounced and walked ahead. Looking at the two of them walking away, Jin Linger felt even more embarrassed. Although she had vowed to pursue Du Zheng when she was at home, she was at a loss when it came to him. She didn't speak, and Du Zheng didn't speak either. He just stood aside and looked at her intently. Jin Linger finally mustered up the courage, let's go pick up the horses too." Du Zheng said, "Miss Jin. Let's go." Yingluo and the others are all gone. Jin Linger was afraid that he would say something bad, so she quickly interrupted and took the lead in chasing Xia Yingluo and Li Shaowai. Du Zheng looked at her back, his eyes darkened, but he didn't say anything and followed her silently. The place to pick up the horses is halfway up the mountain. There are 2 rows of stables here, which raise some good breed horses for short-term use by members. When Jin Linger and Du Zheng arrived, Xia Yingluo had already picked out a snow-white mare. The mare's eyes were gentle, and they complemented each other standing next to Xia Yingluo, just like a moving scenery. Jin Linger's eyes lit up. "Wow, it's so beautiful." Xia Yingluo smiled proudly, "Isn't it beautiful? Of course the horse I picked is good looking. However, since I have already selected it, you can only choose another one. Brother Du Zheng, the task of choosing a horse for Linger will be left to you. It's her first time here and she doesn't know anything. You have to choose a horse for her." Her face was bright. Du Zheng looked at her coldly again. "Can't you choose for your friend?" As soon as these words came out, Jin Linger's face flashed with an imperceptible look of hurt. Xia Yingluo didn't want to be fooled by him and smiled shamelessly. "I walked a long way and spent a lot of effort to pick the horse I like. I'm exhausted. I have to go over there and drink some sour plum juice." She pointed to a small pavilion a few steps away. "Come to me after you finish your selection." Smiling, he took his brother and went there. Du Zheng's expression is even colder. These brothers and sisters all have the same virtue. Under the summer sunshine, Jin Linger bit her lip and said, "Don't bother Mr. Du, I'll pick the horse myself." She is also a human being and has self-esteem. If she can't see the reluctance, then that would be too ignorant. Thinking of this, his eye circles became a little red, and he couldn't help but put a hand into his pocket and hold the hairpin he asked Xia Yingluo to give him. That time on the set, she was framed by a female star and accidentally bumped into him. Her hair got caught in the buttons of his shirt, and she couldn't unbutton it for a long time, and finally broke a hairpin. What happened last time, plus what happened this time, will he regard her as a scheming woman who wants to scheme against him and marry into a wealthy family? Jin Linger suddenly regretted that maybe she shouldn't have asked him out so rashly. She hurriedly walked into the stable with her head lowered, not wanting him to see her disappointed mood. She pointed at a horse that didn't look very tall and said to the staff on the side, "I want this one." The staff member responded and reached out to help her open the stable. Wait a minute, but he was stopped by Du Zheng. Jin Linger looked back at him. Du Zheng's face still had no expression. This horse has a fierce temperament, let's find another one. His vision for choosing horses was many times better than Jin Linger's. He could see the horse's nature at a glance. With Jin Linger it's impossible for beginners to control it. Jin Linger looked at him with a complicated expression and said nothing. He took her for a walk around the stables. As he walked, his expression became more and more ugly. Finally, he asked the staff accompanying him, "You don't have any docile horses here?" Seeing the gloomy look on his face, the staff members were heartbroken and cautiously replied, "How could it not be possible? A club like ours will definitely prepare horses suitable for riders of all levels." But what a coincidence today! A large number of horses were taken for physical examination. In terms of docile temperament, the one chosen by Miss Xia just now is the most docile. He didn't know what happened, but early this morning, someone came and took all the tame horses away, leaving only the big white horse, which was said to be the one designated by Miss Xia Yingluo. He also told him that if anyone asks about a horse with a gentle temperament, he should answer like this. Du Zheng snorted lightly. Jin Linger looked at him uneasily. I can ride other horses, just be careful." This is not the way to die. Looking at her cautious eyes, he felt even more irritated. "You have no training at all, how can you ride?" End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1410. Chapter 1410. Use your horse in exchange. Jin Linger is even more aggrieved. She has always had a bad temper since she was a child, and she will get angry directly at anyone who is rich and powerful. When I first met Du Zheng, I was extremely aggressive towards him. But now that I have him in my heart, I work hard to control my nature and tolerate everything. She swallowed back the curse words that were about to come out of her mouth and bit her lips. Du Zheng didn't notice anything was wrong with her, so he took her to find Xia Yingluo. "Give your white horse to Miss Jin." Xia Yingluo was competing for sour plum soup with her brother. To be precise, she drank 2 portions of sour plum soup with great joy, while Li Shaowai sat on a bamboo chair nearby and watched her fuss with a lazy smile. The 2 elder brothers of the Li family were famous for doting on their younger sister, and Xia Yingluo developed an arrogant temper. At this time, she looked at Du Zheng sideways and smiled. "Why should I give in? Since when did you like to ride a tame horse?" Du Zheng exposed her with one sentence. "This little girl, don't think he doesn't know. Her equestrian skills are inherited from her parents, she's superb, and she's also very flamboyant by nature. She won't ride anything but the most powerful horse. Today, she specifically asked for a tame horse. Didn't she make it clear that she wanted him to speak?" Xia Yingluo was not embarrassed at all after being exposed. She narrowed her beautiful eyes with sparkling eyeshadow and smiled like a little fox. "I just want to ride this white horse today." "What's wrong, brother Du Zheng, do you want it?" "Okay, get something in exchange." Du Zheng remained calm. "What is it?" Xia Yingluo held her chin and thought for a long time. "I remember you raised a horse in this club. It's called Lanja or something, I heard it was an extraordinary horse. Since you robbed my horse, why not give it to me, let me ride. The veins on Du Zheng's forehead jumped, and he knew that this little girl was not going to be easy to deal with. Everyone in the club knows that Lanja is his treasure and he never lets others ride it. This girl has obviously planned it long ago. What if I say no? Du Zheng's voice was cold. Xia Yingluo smiled again, with an innocent look on her face. I won't force you, then I'll just ride this white horse. Du Zheng looked at her closely. Miss Jin is your friend, and you know very well that she cannot get on a strong horse. I know very well, Xia Yingluo smiled interestingly. The problem is, brother Du Zheng, you seem to know very well. I don't remember ever mentioning to you that Ling Er can't ride. The veins on Du Zheng's forehead throbbed again. Why is this little girl not being disciplined and disciplined by Li Lei? She is going to be lawless. Jin Ling Er also looked at him in surprise, and suddenly remembered that she was once asked by the director to do a horse riding scene. She said she couldn't ride a horse, so the director gave her another role. The horse riding scene was just an insignificant role. Unexpectedly, she responded with a few words and was remembered by Du Zheng, who was on the set at the time. All tenderness melted away, and she suddenly became less angry as Du Zheng gave her a cold look. Xia Yingluo continued to tease with a smile. How about it, brother Du Zheng, you have to think clearly. If you don't change, Ling Er will have to ride a fierce horse. Du Zheng resisted the urge to throw the little girl down the mountain and glanced at Li Xiaowai, who was lazy and sheepish at the side. You just let your sister do such nonsense. Li Xiaowai also smiled and said, my sister has this temper. How can I control it? If I dare to do anything to her, I will definitely be the one who gets beaten when I go back. Do you believe it? My parents dote on her, damn it, I'm in so much pain. Hence the situation, and made a hurt expression. Now, Du Zheng wants to throw both his brother and sister off the mountain. Since Li Xiaowai refused to help him, he had no choice but to save himself. He looked at Xia Yingluo with a cold face. If you really refuse to change, Miss Jin will not ride a horse today, who stipulates that you must ride a horse when you come to this club. Unexpectedly, Xia Yingluo's eyes lit up and her smile became even more foxy. Who are you from Ling Er? Can you be her master? Du Zheng was suffocated and suddenly had nothing to say. Unexpectedly, he lowered his eyes and glanced at Jin Ling Er. Unexpectedly, Jin Ling Er was looking up at him. The two people looked at each other awkwardly, and they suddenly looked away. Miss Jin, he said to Jin Ling Er after a short silence, it's too dangerous for you to ride a fierce horse, so don't go. Just as Jin Ling Er was about to agree, Xia Yingluo interrupted, what are you doing here without riding a horse? Ling Er told me on the way that she doesn't know what it feels like to ride a horse, so she must try it. Brother Du Zheng, since you are not her, who is it? It's better not to worry too much. Du Zheng said with a cold face, you are kidding with her life. How can it be so serious? Jin Ling Er reacted. She and Xia Yingluo were good friends. Since Xia Yingluo encouraged her to go horse riding, there must be a purpose. She just needs to cooperate well. Du Zheng looked very unhappy. Are you desperate for your life? Jin Ling Er raised her head and smiled as if she was ignorant and fearless. I just want to give it a try. Du Zheng took a deep breath, then another deep breath, trying to control himself not to get angry. Li Xiaowai on the side looked at him with interest. I think you can use your Wolf Fang and Yingluo instead. She has been thinking about your horse for a long time. Okay, finally, Du Zheng said. Xia Yingluo clapped her hands and laughed. I knew brother Du Zheng was the most generous. A pair of beautiful eyes looked at Jin Ling Er and told her, you don't know, right? Ling Er, that Wolf Fang is of pure blood. It was a gift given to brother Du Zheng by his father before his death. He is very precious and never let others touch me. If it weren't for your blessing this time. Shut up. Du Zheng's face was so dark that water could drip from his face. Xia Yingluo smiled and stopped talking. On the other hand, Jin Linger was extremely surprised. She didn't expect that horse to have such an origin. Was she going too far? Then, I won't ride a horse, she looked at Du Zheng and said, you don't have to give up such an important thing for me. Du Zheng frowned and looked at her. Logically speaking, she should be happy when she said she was no longer riding a horse, but why was the uncomfortable feeling in her heart getting stronger and stronger? Does she mean that she thinks she is not as important as a horse? Ride if you are told. His voice was cold and hard, leaving no room for doubt. Jin Linger wanted to say something else, but Xia Yingluo suddenly stood up. Okay, don't give in like this, it makes me seem like a heinous bad guy. I suddenly don't want to ride that white horse anymore, so give it to me. Linger is ready. Brother Du Zheng, I don't want your wolf fang either. I'm just going to choose another horse so I won't bother you. After saying that, he smiled brightly at the two of them and ran away, jumping up and down. Li Xiaowei also stood up lazily. I'm going to see that girl. Du Zheng and Jin Linger were left alone, looking at each other in the small pavilion. The atmosphere was a bit awkward, but Du Zheng broke the silence first. Let's go, I'll take you to get the horse. La la la, Happy New Year's Eve, I wish you all a lot of New Year's money, New Year and new atmosphere. See you next year for the next chapter update. End of this chapter.